When the McCord Museum asked me if I might be interested in photographing one of the areas of Montreal in transition, I immediately thought of Griffintown because of the stark contrast between the old and the new. In the future, these pictures may be the only dramatic evidence of that transition. I've been working as a street photographer for 40 years. And as a street photographer, I walk around and I just look for things that are personal to me. So in this project, photographing Griffintown, I'm not photographing it as a historian. My knowledge of Griffintown is very superficial. It occurred to me to start the project photographing the horse stables of Griffintown, a remnant of the 19th century that's about to disappear. There were probably hundreds of stables like this in Montreal in the 19th century. This is the last remaining one. I don't think it has much of a future, so it's very interesting to document it. This is perfect. Look at this. Okay, Dan, have a great day. As you go through that gate, you're leaving the 19th century into the 21st century. Bye-bye. I've been photographing Times Square for 40 years, so I'm used to photographing these illusionistic situations where you get large posters and theatrical signs that create counter-realities, visual ambiguities. I always like to exploit the contrast between the selling techniques of the developers that insinuate the purchase of a condo with glamour and the reality of the raw bricks and mortar structures. This is perfect. Maybe we could get a close-up of the lips here. This is a shot where I get the dramatic effects of the photomural juxtaposed with the reality of the actual construction of these very anonymous condo buildings. This is interesting. Here is a black and white photograph of a seemingly emotional situation. Beside it, there's a very colorful scene being reflected by a glass window. It creates an abrupt juxtaposition, like a painterly collage. When I look through the viewfinder of the camera, I see a flat surface. I arrange the elements on a canvas, like an abstract painter. I deny the perspective of the Renaissance. Here's a red truck. I use it as an abstract element. I disregard the fact that it's a truck. It's always interesting to find a truck with a picture on the side, ideally demonstrating the services they provide when it is juxtaposed with the reality it finds itself in. In terms of color, we have a man in a red hat with a red sign on the right, echoing the same shape and form. These two elements give a formal sense of cohesion to the picture. So that was good. I'm very happy with that. Let's look for something else. So here we have some action. I have to try and take advantage of this. Once all this construction's over, this place will look like a cemetery. All these colorful trucks will be gone and there'll just be rows of condos. Look at this. This is spectacular. It's a real construction drama. I always try to compose the pictures like a painter. This long yellow chute has just a stripe of yellow paint. I often like to include people off in the distance and out of all proportion. This can bring a dramatic sense of scale to a picture. Look at this, spectacular. I like to pack as much stuff in the frame as possible to make a complex picture and yet still make it legible. The world is chaotic. In my pictures, I try to wait for a moment where everything is in perfect harmony. At that moment, the world makes sense. The next moment, it breaks down into chaos again. Whenever I encounter a particularly complicated visual situation, I superimpose a grid on it like a Mondrian painting, and that makes it more legible to a viewer. Sometimes you have to anticipate a picture happening. You do this by intuition and experience. You feel something's about to happen. When I take a picture, I forget the actual literal subject matter that I'm photographing. I break it down into its abstract components. I balance the color, the lines, the shapes, to form a pleasing abstract composition. I usually photograph in bright sunlight. This brings out the primary colors which I seem to be attracted to. For me, the shadows in a picture are just as important as the concrete objects. They can be used very effectively as visual anchors. I encounter many interesting things on my walks that are just not photographable. This was the site of St. Anne's Church, the most important location in all of Griffintown. All that's left is the foundation, and it presents a problem, photographically speaking, because it's just not very interesting. Here it is, the most important location, but not interesting photographically. This is one of my favorite locations in Griffintown. I keep coming back here again and again. I just find it so visually dynamic. It really encapsulates the real spirit of the industrial infrastructure. You see the grain elevators in the back, the cranes, Five Roses flower, the graffiti on the bridge. It's wonderful. Sort of almost romantic industrial situation. So here we are in this emerging new Griffintown, an imagined paradise of glass, concrete, and steel. But what will it all add up to? Will it just be as illusionistic as this photographic backdrop?